What's up and welcome to the Owls edition, me. So as a quick reminder, my Owls career is Care of Magical Children. Is that what it's specifically called? Yes, we're gonna call it that, which I have 8 prompts to fulfill. I still intend, if I can get through all of those, to look at the certifications and see what else I can fit in the month. I have high hopes that I can do more than 8 books, but that also factors in the fact that I am a full-time homeschool teacher now, so I don't have as much free time to read as I used to. My main reading times are in the morning before school and then during nap time for the baby, but now the baby's nap time coincides with school time, so I lose about 2 hours of reading that I could have. So that said, I still have read a decent quantity because we're on day 2 today. I wanted to get some reading done before I did any updates, and I did read my very first Owls prompt, The Mall by Megan McCafferty. This is an ARC. The book is out in June, and this is my prompt for herbology, which is to read a book with M on the cover. Obviously, Mall starts with an M. If you watched my TBR video, you saw that I had reservations about reading this, specifically because Megan McCafferty's work from the early 2000s has since dated itself. The terminology used between girls is very judgy and slut-shamey, and I was afraid, because this is a book about a girl in a mall finding herself, that we'd see it again, and we did. So my thoughts on this are complicated, so let's discuss it. First and foremost, this is a book that is set in the 90s. It's about a 17-year-old senior who is going to work after a bout of mono, and she works at the mall at like a cookie shop in the food court with her two-year-long relationship boyfriend, and they're the kind of couple that in school was like voted the best likely to succeed, and like they had a whole plan, but it turns out that while she was sick with mono for 6 weeks, he started hooking up with a coworker. So she finds that out on the first day of being back, and because the coward didn't tell her. And then the rest of the story kind of goes from there, like her trying to figure out how she's going to navigate the summer while having a job because she still needs to save money in order to go to college in New York City, that kind of thing. At first I thought that I was going to tackle this review by saying, like, I know I'm not the main audience for this because I'm not a teenager anymore, but when you take teenagers and you put them in the 90s, modern day teenagers right now probably aren't going to relate so hard to a lot of the pop culture references. There was a lot of talk of Morrissey and Nirvana and Vanilla Ice, and like the style was very 90s and the problems were very 90s, like no one had cell phones, and like all the, there's just a lot of things that factored into the setting of this place that I feel like teenagers nowadays aren't really going to relate to. And a lot of teenagers do listen to Nirvana and the Smiths and whatnot, but like that wasn't enough to make this more relatable. So that said, even if I pull back and say that I wasn't the target audience, I don't feel like there was any depth to this story. I wouldn't call it predictable, but I would call it basic, because there wasn't really anything to predict. There wasn't a whole lot of high stakes in anything, and that could be forgiven or like looked past in a novel if there was substance, but there was no substance to the character. The things that happened to her I didn't really care about, and there wasn't a whole lot that happened to her or with her. The relationships were very surface, not very meaningful, and they didn't really grow. And there was a lot of, almost the entire book is her judging other people. Like the people that work at the mall alongside her, she has a rating scale based on 90210 characters, which is another reference that I don't think a lot of modern day teenagers are going to understand. Even I didn't, because I never watched 90210, but based on like the popular characters, those were the jobs that you really wanted to get at the mall, the like prestige jobs. And then it went further down, and like the janitors and people had like the lowest geeky 90210 character title, and like no one wanted those jobs, and those poor people. It just didn't feel good. It felt yucky, because that's how she like referenced people. Like she'd go past a janitor and refer to them as that, in her head, as that person in 90210, and be like, I watched the poor janitor scrub the escalator. And it was just like in Sloppy First, unfortunately, that like a lot of the mental commentary going on with our main character was in judgment of other people. Now, sure, I guess that's like a lot of what being 17 is, but I was like really hoping that Megan's writing had grown up a little bit. I don't feel like in good conscience I can say that it has. I didn't hate it. I think that it could be okay, especially for someone of that age range, possibly. I gave it 3 stars because I didn't absolutely hate it. I just didn't really enjoy it either. I think if you want a story that's similar but done better, you're looking for like an Emma Mills novel, honestly. This was like a grade B Emma Mills is where I'll end it. I tore it apart. There were some redeeming qualities, like it was fun. There's a treasure hunt and it's fun, and she has like a glow up and feels more herself afterwards, and that's nice. And there was some talk of feminism. She didn't really shy away from teenager sexual exploits, but it wasn't also handled that well in my opinion. So I don't know, I'm all over the place, but 3 stars for my first read. Not my favorite. I'm looking forward to more people reviewing this to see if I'm just a harsh critic because of my rereads of Sloppy First, but who knows. That said, the other book that I've been reading via audiobook is for my transfiguration class, which is a character has to be able to transform. What's the word I'm looking for? Shapeshift. They have to shapeshift. So I picked up Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare, thinking like in the first 3 Mortal Instruments books, there are werewolves, not knowing that one of the main characters, Tessa, is actually basically solely a shapeshifter, but into people, not werewolves, from what I can gather so far. And here's the thing, I'm pretty far in. I think it's about 37%. I'm having a hard time paying attention to the audiobook. Like, it's not because the narrator's bad. I actually really, really like the narrator of the audiobook. I think she's doing a wonderful job. My attention has been very sporadic. Now, on a good day, I have attention deficit disorder. Like I have to be doing multiple things at once. When I read, I like use a fidget cube in my hand. Otherwise I start like picking at my face, my scalp. Like I have a hard time focusing on a good day. So all of that said, I kind of want to switch to physically reading this. I haven't fully decided. I might do like a cross of the two. When I can focus more heavily on the audiobook, I can do that. I can focus better when I'm cooking versus when I'm playing a video game. But I think I'm really, really liking it. So I'm thinking like I want to focus more on it. So I might go to the physical book. That said, this is a completely different story than the Mortal Instruments. Same world, shadow hunters exist. They're in the, what's it called? Institution? That's not the right word. There's like a specific place they all meet, and I can't remember the name of it right now. All the shadow hunter fans are going to be annoyed to know it instantly. But anyway, Tessa's like on a hunt for her. This takes place a really long time ago, and most people have read this, so I'm sorry if I'm summarizing it for all of you that have read this. Is on a hunt for her brother when she gets kidnapped by people because these people know that she's not fully human, and they keep her for a long time, and then she gets busted out by Will Herondale. So far, it's very interesting. I like the magic. I like her magic. I like the characters that are within it, and it's nice to finally get a story with these characters that I've heard about ever since I have found BookTube, like Will Herondale and what's his name? Jem Karstad, is that it? He's only just kind of been introduced, so I can't remember his name, but I know that people talk about those two specifically all the time, so I'm excited to see what's in store for them. I do think that there's going to be a love triangle, which is like not my favorite thing, but in the time frame that this was written, it makes complete sense as to why, because love triangles were very huge in YA fantasy for a while there, and sometimes still are, but I'm enjoying it, so I'm glad. Everyone that has said that they like the dark, what is this? The Infernal Devices more than the Mortal Instruments. I feel like I'm gonna be in that category because I'm already way more invested in this than I was in Clary and Jace. So we'll see. And the last little update I'll give is that if I don't switch to physically reading Clockwork Angel and I pick up a new physical book to read alongside that, I'll be going with A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison. This will fulfill my Defense Against the Dark Arts prompt, which is to read a book that is set by the sea or on the coast, which this is an island and is set at sea. This is a story about 3 sisters that are like fighting a curse, I want to say, by breaking a curse, and it's just about their bond and magic, and I am looking forward to starting it, trying to get some of like the easier reads out of the way so I can determine what I can do in terms of certification. And also I have the buddy read with Destiny to read Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. So I'm trying to figure out when we're gonna fit that in, but I haven't talked to her yet. So I'll update you when I start reading that as well. And I should look and see if that'll fit into a certification. So I'm not including it in the owls. All right, that is my update for right now. It is a beautiful day out. It is 60-ish degrees, 61 degrees and sunny. We got to go out on the porch and like blow bubbles and play Simon Says and get some like vitamin D straight into our skin because it's been super rainy here lately. So on top of being in self-isolation and social distancing, we haven't even really been outside because it's just been rainy and gross and cold. So it's been very nice. An energy booster, I will say, to have the sun. I have my window open. I keep looking at it because it's nice to get the breeze in my room and air, yada yada. All right, Owls Day 2, I will check in again with you in the near future, probably once I finish another book, and that's it. All right, guys, see you in the next clip. I have like a million updates to give because I haven't been vlogging at all because it's been a really long weekend, but I had to get new Joy-Cons because my left Joy-Con stick was really messed up, and so I wanted to show off the new colors. Yeah. I don't know when the last clip that I filmed was because it's been a while. I'm doing a really bad job vlogging for the owls, mostly because of, well, you know, you're all going through it as well. Life is an adjustment right now. Having 3 kids home all of the time and having to homeschool 2 of them from literally 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. every day is more than I could ever have anticipated. And yeah, it's been an adjustment. I'm still reading a lot, actually. I didn't think I would, but thanks to Animal Crossing and audiobooks, I am doing quite a good job on the owls, but I feel stressed out all the time. I debate talking about everything that's going on the vlogs because I know we want escapism, but I also think that it's smart to relate to other people, and my anxiety's been really bad lately, and it's just really sad. I'm trying not to get emotional right now because today is my son's 7th birthday. He's my oldest. And we can't see anybody for his birthday. So just a few minutes ago, knowing that the kids are done school at 2:30, it is right now 2:45. My dad texted me and asked if school's over, and I said yes. And he said, even though it's raining, go out on the porch. And so I looked outside and he was standing outside down on the ground with a happy birthday sign and a happy birthday hat, and we all went outside and talked to him, and he left some presents for both Ollie's birthday and Easter at the front door, and a couple books for me. He's a big Stephen King and like Dean Koontz fan, and like a lot of the books that I have on my TBR cart are books that he has read and given to me, which is one of the few things that we have in common in terms of enjoyment of life at all. We don't have a whole lot in common, my dad and I, but he's always been a reader. So it just broke my heart a lot. Anyway, let's get into the books, because since I last updated, which I believe I can't even remember, but I do believe that I had finished already Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare and The Mall by Megan McCafferty. If I hadn't finished Clockwork Angel at the time, I did give it 4 stars, and I really did enjoy it. I think I will like it more than I liked the Mortal Instruments first 3 in the trilogy, well, whatever it would be called. But since then, I have also... I don't have the prompts because I'm really bad at this job lately. As I said, stressed out. I finished 3 more books since then. One of them wasn't at all on my TBR. I could make it work, but I disliked it so much that I'm gonna pretend it didn't happen. We'll get to that in a second. For books that I did actually complete and are part of my Owls TBR, I won't be able to remember the classes for them specifically. I think this is Potions, but it's a class that takes a book that takes place on the sea or the coast, and I read A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison. I loved it so much. I am going to eventually buy the sequel, just not right now. I've been really wanting to buy books. I think I probably mentioned that in my last clip, and I did finally splurge with a gift card, so I spent like $3 out of pocket on a couple books on Barnes and Noble. I'm trying not to buy too much stuff, especially unnecessary stuff that would have to get delivered to me, both because I don't want to touch boxes that have come in from the outside, and also I know that it's a trying time for delivery people right now. But then small shops, etc., you want to support them, you want to support authors, etc. But this is a kind of book that you can't really get in the States, not through Barnes and Noble, definitely. So it would have to be like book depository order. So at some point, getting ahead of myself. This is a middle grade story about 3 sisters. The oldest is, I believe, 16. The middle is the one that you get the story through. She is 13. So Betty is the 13-year-old. Her older sister, Fliss, short for Felicity, is the 16-year-old. And then they have a 6-year-old sister named Charlotte that they call Charlie. And they live with their grandma because their father's in prison and their mother died years ago. And they have just recently come to find out that each of them, due to their familial heritage, have inherited a magical item. One of them has a traveling bag, for example. I don't want to give too much away, but they each inherit one of 3 items when they come of age, which is 16. So the oldest has gotten it, and due to how an event happens in the beginning, Granny ends up telling them about the items. But also alongside the items, they find out that they have a curse on their family, that if they ever leave their specific location, their town, the curse will kill them by the end of that day's sunset. And they go on an adventure to try and break the curse. They don't want to be stuck on the island forever. They're children. They've got a long life ahead of them. It was very sweet. It was a story about how important siblings, especially sisters, are. Also how that's not the case for every relationship. Sometimes siblings aren't good people to each other. So there's a lot of cute lessons to be learned in this. But I really liked the characters. They all had like standout things about them, and the relationships and the lessons they learned and the mistakes they made along the way were just genuine and cute. And I really, really, really did like it. And all the buzz about it is legit. I gave it 5 stars. It's my first 5 stars of The Owls, my only 5 stars so far, though I am reading one that might be my next 5 star. So, but anyway, this is my 3rd completed owl. And my 4th, another one, I can't remember what the prompt is, but it is to have a white cover, and I went with the Owl Crate edition of The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd Jones. This is a story I really enjoyed. I unhauled a lot of my Owl Crate edition books because I've talked on my channel a lot about how YA fantasy has kind of not been my thing lately. I'm trying to get comfy. So I got rid of a lot of them, or I intend to. This is one that in my gut I knew I should stick with and like definitely get to. At one point I was going to save it for the fall, but I went with it anyway, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it a solid 4 stars. It is about, again, siblings that are basically orphaned by their folks, but it's not guaranteed because their parents have gone out to do something for the town and they just never came back. The family business is grave digging, and the weird magic that happens is that the dead don't always stay dead. They come back and they're referred to as the bone houses, and like the town knows about it. And this kid Ellis shows up, and with him suddenly there are more bone houses coming into the town. It was a pretty spooky book, especially for like YA. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I used to read Fear Street as a kid, so I guess to say YA doesn't get that scary is not necessarily true, but there's some very, very creepy scenes. Ellis and our main character Rin have to go and find out what's happening. Why are these bone houses suddenly getting worse? And basically save Rin's village / her little like farm and grave digging business. A lot of crazy stuff happens along the way, and there's a lot of action that is directly with the bone houses that they run into along the way. It was just very, very fast. I had a good time. I really liked the characters, and I liked the relationship that Ellis, the new kid, made with Rin, and how brave Rin was. I just felt like a lot of different emotions throughout this read, and to that I give it 4 stars. I did listen to the audiobook. The narration was great. And that's that. That's my 4th owl done. The last book that I've completed that wasn't on my TBR, but I listened to it on audiobook, is In 5 Years, and I can't for the life of me remember the author's name. I have a lot to say about this book. And the first thing that I'll say is this. I'll have a content warning, but if you don't want to be spoiled for it because you would like to read this book on your own, I will write content warning here, and then I'll explain it, and I'll take content warning off when I'm done talking about that. First, I'll say that the summary that you read about the synopsis that you can read on Goodreads about In 5 Years really ends up having very little to do with the entire arc of the plot of the story. I'm going to tell you the content warning right now, and that is that the entirety of the book ends up being about cancer and the death of your friend. It is a brutal battle with cancer, and they don't really shy away from talking about the slow descent. I think that's something that really should have been mentioned at some point in the synopsis, because with my anxiety right now and just generally, I don't like to hear/see things about cancer and chemotherapy and the process of it. It's just one of those things for me that when I'm already feeling anxious, it just scares me enough that it brings my anxiety up, and I don't like it. Like, I actually stopped watching. For anybody that has seen The Sopranos, one of the characters also starts chemotherapy, and I stopped watching the show because I don't like that. How do I explain this? I don't like cancer as a plot device because I think that it can be used as just kind of like a way to definitely garner emotion from people. And it can be handled right. I'm not saying don't write stories with cancer or people that get it or dealing with it, but if you're going to do it, please, like, content warning. So anyway, that said, even still, the story started out and I was like, this isn't what I anticipated. I really thought that it was going to be a story about someone jumping timelines or like moving into the future and then back and then trying to like figure out how they got where they were. And it was completely different than that. There's like a one-time jump and then that was it. And the main narrator, the main character who you hear the story from, I didn't like her at all from the get-go. The first opening chapter is basically her talking all about her career, where she's like a really, really good lawyer and she's interviewing for the best job that you can get in New York City as a lawyer, like a corporate lawyer. And she's expecting to get engaged to her boyfriend that night. And like the whole first chapter is just about that, like how great her life is and how she better be getting engaged tonight and how if he doesn't propose, yada, yada. And like, it's just, I didn't like it. And then she just kind of carries on through the whole story like that. I didn't like her as a character. And I think that some of the plot things that happen were super shitty, honestly. I just didn't like it. If you don't intend to read it, I'm going to do spoilers again, so I'll put it up here. In the jump ahead, she has this dream right after she's gotten proposed in the first proposed to in the first chapter. She jumps ahead and she's like she wakes up in this apartment that she doesn't recognize, and there's a guy there that's like hot, but she doesn't recognize him either. And they end up having sex and it feels like natural, like they've done this before. And then she like opens her eyes and she's back with her like present day fiance. And that was in 2025 and it's 2020 in her present day. And so she goes like she starts putting off the wedding because of this one instance that happened 5 years in the future, so she thinks. And then her best friend, who's like kind of flighty and like fun and never settles down, is like, I met this guy and I think he's the one, and I know it's fast, but I really love him. Let's like meet. I want you to meet him. And it's the guy. Okay, fine. So she just continues to struggle with the fact that like this happened with him, but he doesn't know it, or does he? And then she just keeps pushing off the wedding. Her best friend gets cancer. This woman gets cancer after thinking she was pregnant, but no, she's not pregnant. She has ovarian cancer. Then they realize how bad it is. They do an entire hysterectomy. They take the ovaries. She's got no way of having kids in the future. They realize it's much worse than they thought. They start her on chemotherapy. She's slowly dying. And this boyfriend that has been otherwise a good guy the whole time they end up kissing, the like main character and her dying best friend's boyfriend. And like it's not even really discussed. It like happens and then it's over, and then the friend dies and you have the funeral and then the book's done. And I was like, what the fuck did I just read? Because I didn't like it, and a ton of reviews are like 4 and 5 stars. This is one of those books where I'm like, what did I miss? So anyway, that was a long rant for that, but I just really, really didn't like it, and I won't recommend it to anyone. I know my friend Lacey is about to read it for her owls, and I'm really interested in her thoughts. I thought The one thing I'll say about it that was positive is that I felt like the writing style reminded me a bit of a Taylor Jenkins Reid novel, and I really thought it would go that direction, that we might juggle two different storylines of the girl like continuing to go in the future and living these two lives with two different men. I think that would have been a more fascinating angle than what we got, and instead we just got this really emotionally raw story that I didn't appreciate whatsoever. It sucks that I had to experience it like that, but c'est la vie. You can't, not every book is for everybody. All right. So then on to the book that I'm currently reading. This is an addendum too. I have to read a story that involves witches, and my current TBR has The House with Chicken Legs, a middle grade novel, as the book for that prompt. But I didn't realize this book kind of could work in terms of having witches in it. I know The House with Chicken Legs was kind of a reach too, because it features Baba Yaga, which is a witch in some cultures' stories, but not always. So that was a stretch. And this one is kind of a stretch as well. But in case I run out of time, this will count for the witch's prompt. And I'm reading Red Sister by Mark Lawrence alongside Destiny over at Howling Libraries and Destiny's partner, as well as Brianna over at Rainy Days and Stormy Nights. This is my first buddy read with both Destiny and Brianna, and so I'm really excited because I love both of these women just so much. I mean, I don't know, we're all just so busy, and I can't believe that this is the first buddy read I'm having with either of them. I love buddy reads. They always motivate me, one, to have like a page point to get to each day, and two, to have someone to like gush or rave and rant about books with. I am absolutely loving this though. Yesterday we read to page 80. Today it's like 163. I'm probably at 100 and I'm at 118. And I liked what I've read so far so much that I ordered both the sequel and the third and final in the trilogy in just the standard. I don't tend to get mass paperback books, but hardcovers of these are incredibly expensive and hard to find. So I like the set to match, and so I just went with it. And I also got, because I had enough money on the gift card, Spaceboy Volume 6, which is the most recent release in Spaceboy, just because I need something light and fun, and I have been collecting them as they came out, and I just, on my book buying ban, have not had the chance to buy it yet, so it worked to bring me to a full gift card usage. This is a story about a girl who is an orphan who is supposed to be hanged for a crime that didn't actually fulfill, and is picked up by a woman called Abbess. Like, she's an Abbess. I don't know what that is, or if it has any reference like to religion, because I'm not a very religious person. I was not raised to be one, so my knowledge of that is very minimal. But this woman takes this young girl, Nona, into a convent type deal where nuns teach these girls how to be assassins. And there are like 4 bloodlines that have more superior qualities in the world, but they're very, very, very rare. And to have more than one is incredibly rare. And they think that Nona has at least one of them. And she's also with another girl who's like a royal bloodline who probably has more than one of them. So it's like a big deal. And you can tell they're going to be arch enemies through like probably the whole series. Nona's abilities are way, way bigger than she lets on, because she realized at a young age that showing off those abilities does not garner friendships. It makes her a weird outcast. So she doesn't show everything she can. And I cannot wait until we get like her whole she as her full self and power. We've already had tiny little scenes where you see her in action, and they were enough snippets for me to be really, really excited for the future of this novel. Adult fantasy lately to me has been kind of a toss-up. They start to run together, like Mistborn is Eliza Vlacamora is Assassin's Apprentice. Like, they're all pretty good and well thought out and different enough, but like the voice, the tone all end up being very similar. So I was anxious going into this that it would feel that way for me again, and it just isn't. I don't know if it's because it's a story about a bunch of women and a bunch of young girls and their power. That could be what I'm connecting to and with that sets it apart, but it feels different, and I'm really excited for the journey, and I anticipate really, really, really loving this. This is the book I said earlier would probably make it 5 stars for me. So that's it. The next novel I'll probably start, I think I already took it downstairs, is Beach Read by Emily Henry. It's something that I really wanted to read since Madeline, Jane, and Chelsea have all raved about it since they got their arcs, and Book of the Month Club did have it as an early release, so I snatched that up along with another book that I took back downstairs. You saw my Instagram, then you saw it. It was Libraries of the Lost, I think it's called, but it's like a Chinese historical fantasy, and it really piqued my interest. I read the first page that they offer you on Book of the Month, and I liked the writing, and I liked what we read, and the cover was gorgeous, and so I went for it. I've never heard anything about it. I hope I can sneak it in somehow this month, though, because I am that excited about it. But beach read would be nice, because it's been very gray and cloudy here, and being stuck inside, it'd be nice to consider the beach. My governor did already close all pools for the entire summer. I'm anticipating school to be out for the rest of the year, though it has not been stated yet. So it's just very, very weird right now. And that's it. I need to go bake a cake for my son's birthday. All right, well, I wish I had my prompts with me so I could do my wrap up, but I will just write the prompts here, and that way you'll know what I read each one for. My first owls, well, I finished four of my 8 prompts already, and it is the first week of the owls. So I do anticipate getting a lot more done than I had originally thought. So the first one I read was The Mall by Megan McCafferty. This is to read a book that starts with M. I gave this 3 stars, which was probably a little generous, and you probably already heard me rant about this. So 2, I finished Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. This was to read a book with someone who can shapeshift. This was for Transfiguration, and I gave it 4 stars. 3, I needed to read a book that took place on the coast or on the sea, and I read A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison. I can never remember the name, I don't know why. This was a 5-star, and so far my favorite read of the readathon. And lastly, The Bone Houses, to cover my book that has a white cover by Emily Lloyd Jones. I really enjoyed this as well and gave it 4 stars. So there we have it. That is a very good stack for my first week. Honestly, I am impressed with my own skills. I read these 2 in audio. I read these 2 physically. I had my 3rd book that I won't count towards my owls via audiobook, so April 6th, and I have read 5 books already this month, and I think that that is a new record. That said, guys, I'm hoping that you're well. I'm hoping that you're hanging in. I know that it's weird and surreal and hard and different, and even if you are an introverted person and you do like to hang out at home, it still feels different, right? So I hope you're hanging in, and I hope that you're reading a lot of good books and you're doing things that relax and distress you, and watching good TV, whatever it takes to keep your mind off of the things that we're all dealing with right now. Again, I'm about to go make cake. I hope that I don't mess it up. Wish me luck. I will see you next week with more Owls updates. Thanks for being here, guys. Like if you like this video, subscribe if you are new here and would like to see more content from me. I post all my social media links down below. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Goodreads. I will see you in the next one, guys. Happy April. Bye.